Now we'll come to the main part of the today's evening, a keynote speech. It is indeed our honor to have Mr. Nitin Paranjpe, Chief People Officer and Chief Transformation Officer at Unilever. Nitin Paranjpe was kind enough to come and join us today and deliver the keynote speech in spite of his busy schedule. Or maybe our persistence has worked. Me introducing Nitin Paranjpe is like trying to show a torch to a sun, but I will still make an attempt. Nitin was appointed as Chief People and Chief Transformation Officer in January 2022 at Unilever Plc. He was subsequently also appointed as Chair of Hindustan Unilever Limited in March 2022. He has been a member of Unilever Leadership Executive since October 2013. In his Chief People and Chief Transformation Officer role, he is responsible for leading both human resources and implementation of new Compass organization globally. Unilever Compass organization was announced in January 2022 and has come into effect on 1st of July 2022. From May 2019, he was Unilever's Chief Operating Officer and responsible for delivering in-year results for Unilever globally. Prior to his role as Chief Operating Officer, Nitin was President of Food and Refreshment Division between 2017 and 2019, having served as President of Unilever's Home Care Division from 2013 until 2017. Nitin originally joined Unilever at Hindustan Lever Limited in 1987, where he held several roles in marketing and sales. In 2000, he moved to Unilever London and was involved in review of organizational structure before becoming executive assistant to chair and Unilever Executive Committee. Once his return to India in 2002, Nitin held several senior positions in laundry and household care, rising to Executive Director of Home and Personal Care in 2006. In April 2008, he was appointed as Chief Executive Officer of Hindustan Lever Limited, India, and Executive Vice President of Unilever South Asia. Nitin holds bachelor degree in Mechanical Engineering and MBA in Marketing from Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies in Mumbai. For his efforts in blazing a trail of diversity, he has won GG2 Hammer Awards in 2019. Previous winners of these awards are Mayor of London Sadiq Khan and Chancellor of Exchequer Sajid Javed. Nitin is married with 2 children. That's my short introduction to Nitin Paranjpe sir. May I now request Nitin Paranjpe sir to come and deliver his keynote address.
Thank you, Ravi. In what you called a short introduction, you just reminded me of my age. I've been around long enough and probably had forgotten some of the things that he talked about. Much of what he said was factual. There was one which wasn't. And the thing that wasn't was when he said, this is the main part of the event. The main part is over. The main part is over. I think it was absolutely wonderful listening to the stories of Abhishek, Sujay, Subodh, Dr. Vinita, and of course, Mr. Dani, who talked about what he's done thus far. So I have to say, listening to each one of you, I felt two emotions really. I felt a remarkable sense of pride, but I also felt hugely inadequate. Inadequate because I'm going to follow all of you. Inadequate because I'm talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs with a fire in the belly. And inadequate because I've never been one. But on a more serious note, first I want to thank you for inviting me here. It is an honor. It is an honor for me to be here today and have the opportunity to say a few words. But the pleasure for being here has already been over. I'm delighted that I had the chance to listen to the wonderful people who came and spoke of their ideas. And in that little 40 minutes that went by, I got a sense of what OMPEG is, and I got a sense of how valuable the service that OMPEG is providing. The creating a platform to have entrepreneurs, professionals from the Maharashtrian community to come together to exchange ideas, to learn from each other. If you ever needed evidence that it is valuable, you had that evidence. Just now, I certainly had it, because I have not been closely associated with OMPEG for so long, but I can see the value of what you're doing. So I want to congratulate OMPEG on this 6th anniversary at this moment. I want to congratulate you, and I also want to wish you all the very best. It is a service worth providing. I wish you many, many more years of continuing the wonderful work that you're doing. I think it will make a huge difference. So that's what I want to say. Now, Ravi said something else which was true. I don't think it has anything to do with the time or my busy schedule. I am here simply because he's super persistent. Yeah? And that was the reason for coming here, but I now know that not having agreed to one or two in the past because I was traveling, etc., the loss was entirely mine. If this is the sort of interaction and the people, etc., I absolutely think that I've missed out on being more closely associated here. So I agreed to coming here, but I also want to make an admission, which is that in the last few weeks, after agreeing to this, I've had serious doubts of whether I did the right thing by agreeing. And that was simply because of what I've just experienced. And those doubts have only gone up because I said, what am I going to come here and speak to this audience about? I've never been an entrepreneur. I don't think I would ever have succeeded. So what advice would I give anyone out here? I've been a professional, an executive all my life, but even then some people would say you've taken the easy way out. You only work for one company, so what do you really know? Or what are the challenges? What are the challenges of working across different companies, different sectors, changing roles, managing a career? I really don't. So and for both these counts, I felt inadequate and wasn't sure whether I was the right person to come and talk. But then I saw something, and it gave me heart. It gave me heart because the OMPEG website describes its purpose as propagating the spirit of entrepreneurship. And the spirit of entrepreneurship is relevant for an individual, it's relevant for a small firm, it's also relevant for a large business, it's relevant for us all. It is the spirit of entrepreneurship which has driven business, which has created progress, which has led to society where it is here today through decades, maybe even centuries of progress. The contribution that this business has made through the spirit of entrepreneurship over the last few centuries is remarkable. Economic growth, employment, improved quality of life through innovation. And we got a great example of several ideas even today. And I think probably this spirit of entrepreneurship which has got us here is probably even more relevant now as we look ahead into the future. And the reason I say that is because the world today is probably facing more challenges than it has ever faced in its past. We use the terms like unprecedented. It's got so hackneyed, it's lost its meaning, but it is true. It is truly unprecedented in terms of the times that we find ourselves. But I don't need to spend time describing it to any of you because you know, you're dealing with it every day as business leaders and businessmen, and the economic uncertainty, the inflation that we are dealing with, the geopolitical tensions and its implications. But those are many immediate and tactical issues. But in addition to that, we are dealing with existential issues around the societal strife that comes through the increasing gap between the rich and poor and the tension across the world that it is creating. Climate change. These are big issues. I could go on and on, but the problem is the more I speak, you would be justified in feeling despondent. would be justified in feeling despondent because the issues facing us are such that it is difficult to imagine any one individual, any one firm from having a chance of making a difference. And yet, we have to make a difference. And to make that difference, we will all have to come together. We will all have to come together, small business, large business, governments, civil society, everyone will have to come together, and not just come together. Come together with the spirit of entrepreneurship, the art of possibility, which is really the theme of this event. Now, I started off saying, what do I know? I've never been an entrepreneur, but the spirit of entrepreneurship is relevant everywhere. And I've reflected over my 35-year career. What does the spirit of entrepreneurship mean? What are those attributes? And you could go on, and you heard a few of them. That grit, that resilience, that deep belief and conviction which makes you stay the course. That's important. No question about it. My desire today is to not talk about all of them. I'm probably going to touch upon one or two behaviors and one unique mindset. And I'm going to talk about them not because what I say is novel, new, unique. There will be no aha moment. What I'm going to say and probably will not just sound simple, to some it might even sound simplistic, because it's so obvious. But as you will see, the seemingly commonsensical thing is not so easy to practice. That's what I see in this world. So let me start off by the first trait and characteristic for any business. And that, unsurprisingly, has to be an obsessive focus on your consumers and customers. I use the term obsessive deliberately. Now, many of you would say, but what's the big deal? We understand it. And doesn't every company have a credo, the customer is king, customer is right? All of us say that. But all of us know that much of it is lip service. Very, very few companies actually believe in it. Believe in it with conviction. Believe in it that it is the main purpose, if not the sole purpose of their existence. Believe that this will be the driver of the difference and help them succeed. Now, I'm going to use an example because I don't want to talk theory of examples of different companies. And I use this example not because it's the only company which genuinely believes in it. There are plenty others. But I use this example because there's an amusing twist to it. It makes for nice listening. And there is a message, of course. Now, there is a company called Nordstorm. Now, some of you may have heard of it. It's a luxury departmental store, started off in the United States. And this company, like every other company, had this motto, that the customer is always right. They deeply believed in it. And the story I'm going to narrate is a real story of about 20 years ago. It happened in a store in Japan. Now, on one fine day, there was a customer who walked into that store, and he went to the returns counter. And he had a product which he had to return. The person at the counter, in line with the policy, took that product back. Nothing unusual thus far. As the day was ending, the supervisor, before shutting shop, came down, walked past, and was intrigued to see some of the returns which were there. And one of the items was a truck tire. He looked at it and said, "What's this?" "It's a truck tire," this fellow said. The supervisor looked at this person and said, "But don't you know we never sell truck tires?" So he said, "I know, but the customer didn't. And you've always taught us that the customer is right. Who am I to argue with him?" Now, when this happened, the supervisor was somewhat perplexed. What should he do? But such had been the drive, the ritual driving this, that he couldn't say anything. So he walked back somewhat concerned that this might spread and there might be a few other people who would come in and start returning things like tires and other stuff which they don't sell. And guess what? In the next few days, it did happen. There were 8 or 10 other people who came and returned odds and ends. But something else also happened. The word got out. A journalist heard about this. An article came in the Japanese press saying that every company says the customer is king. There is only one company which believes in it and acts like it. In a market which had been declining, the retail sector, This company beat the market handsomely, made profits, grew well ahead of everyone else for the next 5 years. Now, what's the purpose of this story? The purpose of this story is not take back tires. Yeah? The purpose of this story is for you to reflect what might have been the beliefs, what might have been the conviction, which allowed them to have rituals of such order that there could have been a person who was willing to take back something which they didn't even sell. That's the message of the story. That's the conviction that was there. Now, if you buy into this first behavior, which is important, the second bit which I talk about is almost a corollary to that, which is, you heard, and again, nothing new in terms of what I'm saying, you heard all the speakers talk about change, the need to adapt. The truth is, change is not just a constant, change is rapidly increasing, ever increasing pace. Half-life of everything is coming shorter and shorter. And if that is true, customer trends, expectations will change very rapidly. And if the purpose of your business is to solve societal needs and meet their expectations, you need to adapt. Again, sadly, this is easy to understand, difficult to do. Every one of us would have heard of stories. You would have, all of us most certainly would have heard of Kodak. It's a famed story, an iconic brand not too long ago, which frankly had to file for bankruptcy by 2012. We know this story, but I don't know whether everyone knows that the reason they had to file for bankruptcy when digital cameras came in was not technology. Do you know who invented digital technology for cameras? Kodak. Now reflect, they had the technology yet chose not to change, partly because they didn't want to do this on their own business. But the other issue was they believed that the superior photographs that you get on the films, which was the old technology compared to the digital ones, which weren't of the same quality. Oh, why will people settle for suboptimal photographs? They weren't close enough to the consumer to know that the convenience of these digital prints would be valued much more than the slightly superior quality which was there. Therefore, they kept resisting. This is just one example. Everyone knows it, so I don't want to spend too much time there. But another example, about a company which very few would have heard of. But I share it because there's an interesting angle towards the end. There was a company called Blockbuster Video. It was in this business of renting videos, movies, video games, etc. Now this company, at its peak, had 85,000 employees across several countries. Today the company doesn't exist. Why? Because they failed to keep track of the changes that consumers online demand, streaming, etc. Again, the irony is that this company was offered an opportunity to buy Netflix. Yeah? When Netflix was small, just entering for 50 million. That's all they were offered this. And the CEOs dismissed this idea, saying it's too niche a market, streaming. Again, what does it reflect? Not connected with the trends, not connected with the changes taking place. Everyone wedded to that wonderful idea with which you created the business, recognizing that the world has moved on. And founders tend to get too attached to what you've created and gone. The truth is, what's got you here won't get you there. Everyone knows that. And these examples I give you are not just anecdotes. Take data. Now take the largest companies, the S&P 500. In the 70s, the life expectancy of an S&P 500 company was about 30 years, as in being in that S&P 500. Today, it is down to about 15 years. And there's a report which says that only in the next 5 years, by 2027, 50% of the companies in that list today will not be there. In 5 years. Because change is rapid and people don't have the ability to keep pace with that. Now, this is not the story of large companies alone. It is true for small companies as well. Now, every entrepreneur who succeeds and creates the business in his first or second year does so because he or she has found a consumer need or a pain point to address. That's why it succeeds to begin with. And yet, within 5 years, 50% of them don't exist. Within 10 years, 75% of them don't exist. And the reasons for this are two. Many of them are too wedded to what they started off with and don't keep pace with the change. And second, many of them don't realize that the skills required to go from 0 to 10 are different from the skills required to scale up from 10 to 100. Materially different skills. And very few people have the capacity and the humility to understand that I could have gone from 0 to 10 and I had it, but I'm not the right person and I need different help and different capabilities to go from 10 to 100. That's the reason this happens. And that's why, by the way, every large corporation today started off as a small company by some individual with belief. And only 70% go, but few make it. And our desire has to be to keep finding out how can we be some of them who would be able to make it as we move forward. So those were the two behaviors that I thought I would talk about. But I also wanted to share something personal, an insight that I got. An insight that I got almost 20 years ago. An insight that has shaped me, shaped my thinking, my management philosophy. And that insight happened, like I said, over 20 years ago, in 1999. In 1999, I used to work, I was still in India, and I had the good fortune. I had the good fortune of having a chance to interact with the late Professor C.K. Prahlad. Several of you would have heard of him, but he was a remarkable man. And I had the opportunity to engage with him at that moment. As I remember that day vividly, when he invited us into the boardroom, and he asked us a seemingly innocuous question. And that question was, what do you think this company needs more of to be an even greater company than it is today? That was the question. And we were young, and several of us blurted out responses. One of them, we have to be more entrepreneurial. So what does an entrepreneur mean? What's the difference between a manager and an entrepreneur? And again, quick, flippant, take risks, this, that, etc. Lots of responses. But he was a professor. He was absolutely unsatisfied with any of the responses. So he went back. There was a flip chart behind. He walked to that flip chart and he wrote two alphabets, A and R. He wrote another in the row below. Once again, he wrote A and R. The first row, he wrote A is equal to R. And in the second row was an inequality, A substantially greater than R. These were the two things that he wrote. And he looked back, beaming at us as if this was an explanation for everything. Now, clearly, we had no idea what it was, and he teased us for a while. I'm not going to do that. He dragged it on for a while, but he went on to explain that the only difference between a manager and an entrepreneur is the relationship between these two alphabets, A and R, where A stands for ambition and R stands for resource. He then went on to say, when A is equal to R, you're in a managerial mindset. Managers have been taught to manage resources. So if someone tells you, I'll give you more money, more people, yeah, I can achieve more. If I'm going to reduce some of your resources, reduce my target. Isn't that the mindset that we often have? That's a managerial mindset. But there is no entrepreneur worth his or her salt who will ever allow there to be an equality between ambition and resource. Very often, they often might not have a penny in their pocket, or barely a penny, but they aim of going to the moon. They dream big. And they never allow the mismatch between ambition and resource to ever dilute their ambition. They live with that inequality. They live with it in their mind. And it is this difference and inequality between ambition and resource that you live with, which is the driver of innovation. It forces you to think differently and make sure that you find new ways of using that resource to deliver on that ambition. And when you find that new ways, ambition becomes equal to resource. But a good entrepreneur does the next step. He changes his ambition again. So one of the mindsets of a quality of a true entrepreneur and a successful one is the capacity to constantly, not once, constantly have a mismatch between ambition and resource and not see it as a burden weighing you down. seeing it as the springboard for innovation. That's the difference. And as Professor Prahlad explained, it's a necessary condition for innovation is a mismatch between ambition and resource, because when the two are equal, all you need is efficient execution. Now I heard this story and I said, wow. I walked out quite impressed. I walked out impressed, but I'm almost embarrassed to say I dismissed it and saying, oh, he's a professor, he's paid for having the lovely frameworks. Good. And I did not do anything about it. I didn't do anything about it for several years. And then when 2008, 2009, when we had this financial crisis, I happened to be the CEO of the business. It was probably the darkest moment professionally when business was very, very tough. And I don't know why often serendipity has a role to play in our lives. I don't know why I thought of this story which had happened, an incident in 1999. I'd never reflected on it till then. And having exhausted every other option, I said, well, let's give Professor Prahlad's belief a try. Let's see what sounded good in theory. Does it actually work in practice? And with that started a human experiment, the first one, and then several others after that. I'll try and be brief, but the essence of this, and don't worry if the numbers don't mean very much to you, but I'll give you a sense. I said, what can we do at this moment to drive and grow sales quickly when everything else is going through a downturn? And right or wrong, we concluded that in the consumer goods business that we were in, if we could expand distribution big time, it would help our sales. So the truth, however, was that as a company, we were the widest distributed company in the country. We used to go to about 1 million, 10 lakh stores, mom and pop kirana merchants. We used to go regularly. And the next best company would have been about 7 lakhs. So we were well ahead of them. And every year, despite being ahead, we would keep trying to add 20, 30,000 more stores because we wanted to keep our lead. But Professor Prahlad said you have to have an ambition well beyond your resource. So the question was, what is an audacious goal of the number of stores that we should add? And we kept thinking, I don't know, maybe we were adding 30, should it be 50,000? Is that stretching? Is it 100,000? Now, it almost sounds stupid when I tell you what we came up, and I don't even know why. We said 500,000. Now, it is ridiculous. We used to go to about 10 lakh stores after being in business for about 75 years in the country, and we wanted to add 5 lakh stores in a year. Frankly, when I even said it, I had no belief or intent that any of this is going to happen. But I said, but wouldn't it be cool? Let's try. Now, I'll cut a long story short. But something happened during the course of the year, and I'll come back to, where I started seeing something change. There was a different energy, there was a different interaction, and that 5 lakhs happened. That 5 lakhs happened, and it troubled me. It excited me and troubled me. It excited me because I was seeing something different. It troubled me because I couldn't explain it. I couldn't explain why the same set of people with the same resources were doing things which were absolutely impossible to even imagine. I tried it in several other areas. I said, does it only happen in sales? Can I try it in a supply chain? Can I try it in a legal function? And it seemed to deliver exceptional outcomes. And I was so troubled that till one day the penny dropped. And it dropped when I suddenly realized what might have been happening, and I tried to replay what might have happened if I'd gone to the sales head and said, you know what, let's try and add 50,000 outlets this year, not the 500. Let's assume I'd said that. If I'd said 50,000 outlets, guess what would have happened? This person would probably have said, Nitin, last 5 years we've added 20, 25, 30,000 outlets, 50 is out of the world, it's not really impossible. And we would probably have negotiated. And we would have negotiated and settled for maybe 40,000. And he would have convinced me that it is a super stretch goal. And would it have been a super stretch goal? Yes, he would have been right, because we had never gone beyond 30,000. And I wanted him to do 50, and he agrees 40. It's a stretch goal. But when you start off with 500,000, one thing did not happen. What didn't happen? Negotiation didn't happen. Why? what would you negotiate to? 400,000 is as stupid as 500. 300,000 is as stupid as 500. What will you negotiate to? Yeah? So the one thing that didn't happen is negotiation. The second thing that didn't happen, and the first question is, why would he have negotiated from 50 to 40, in the 50,000 to 40,000? The reason human beings negotiate is because at 50,000, it was a number in the same zone. He would have been expected to deliver that number. And he was afraid. He was afraid of failing. He had no idea how you could get to that 50,000. But the moment you moved towards, shifted and changed the paradigm and started talking of 500,000, one thing happened. He didn't negotiate because, and the second thing was, there was no fear of failure. There was no expectation that he could get there. So what changed was, the fear of failure disappeared, and the conversation in the company was not about something failing. Let's try and do something that no one in the world has attempted before. How cool will it be if you crack things? Even if you had got to 100,000, you're a hero. You didn't need to get to 500,000 to be a hero. And the entire energy, fear of failure generates emotion. Working for the joy of doing something that no one's done before also generates emotion. The chemicals released in your body in the two cases are entirely opposite. One is debilitating. The other is energizing. And I saw behaviors which I hadn't seen before. And the simple conclusion I came with is that, my God, if this bunch, same people were doing this, what does it mean? It means in some way that each one of us has almost infinitely more capacity and capability than we are aware of. And the reality is that many of us could go through our lives without knowing how much capability we have because we are simply afraid to fail. We are not even willing to think big enough. And that was probably one of the biggest insights that I had, that if you can find a way to shift people out of the fear of failure and move them into the joy of working towards something which no one's worked before, it can lead to exceptional outcomes. So I'm going to try and bring this to a close, but I just want to reflect on what we are saying. I think in the end, I think the art of possibility, as the theme is today, or the spirit of entrepreneurship, is what has got us here, and probably is what we need in the next few years. I mentioned that we can feel despondent when you look at the big issues, but frankly, there is no reason why if everyone comes together in the same spirit, we won't be able to solve for it. So that's really the message, the first message. And the second one absolutely is that each one of us has more capacity, has more capability than even we are aware of. And my only wish and hope is that OMPEG keeps doing what it is doing, providing this platform, allowing people to come here in a wonderful atmosphere where you can learn, share, contribute, and build on each other and get to the outcomes that you want, so that it gives you personal fulfillment, joy, satisfaction. And I wish each one of you, well, what do I wish you? Everything that you'd wish yourself. Thank you all. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What should a good organization stop doing in terms of brand building?
Let me try and, if you're talking about brand and brand identity, let me answer it in, so firstly, I think you need both the character and the personality. It's not one or the other. And the way I'd explain it is as follows. A brand is a product to buy and an idea to buy into. It is both. If you don't have the right product, you don't have a starting point. But if you just have the right product and you don't find a way to convey it, to communicate it, you're not likely to build an image. So that's why the way I think of it is you would need both. It starts with the product. So it is about character. It is about the authenticity of what you do. If you try and show who you are not, you'd be seen through. People are not fools. As someone has said, you can never fool everyone all the time. You can fool some people some of the time. So authenticity is at the heart of any brand image. It begins with your product. but it is not limited to the product. It is both a product to buy and an idea to buy into, and therefore you need both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nitin sir. Thank you, Reshma.
Sir, we often hear about successful people know about their why very, very well, their purpose, before they get to what and how. May I ask, how did you discover your why or purpose in life?
You know, I have to say, purpose is a very lofty word, sometimes overused. I don't know whether I would use it, but I'd try and answer it differently. You know, like many of us, we might have had spent our childhoods in India. Mine certainly was in India. And at times it would trouble me. It would trouble me because in a classroom you would be taught, everyone would say honesty is the best policy, and you would be taught all values, etc. And you would sometimes in the real world, it troubled me when I heard people say, but you know, you have to be somewhat crooked to get ahead. It troubled me because that dissonance didn't sit in with the idealism that I had. And I felt to myself, why? Why is it not possible? Why is it not possible to live with good old middle class values of honesty, integrity, respect, dignity, and fairness, and yet demonstrate that you can deliver exceptional outcomes? Why is it that good people have to come last? Good people don't always have to finish last. And in some ways, through my life, I've been hoping to demonstrate that you can be who you are. You don't have to be crooked, cut corners to get ahead. And it will always be a journey that you're on, but it is a journey that I'm inspired and driven to demonstrate whether it's possible.
Hi, so as you mentioned, we live in quite a fast-changing world. So I was wondering, what challenges do we need to be prepared for regarding diversity and market changes, economy changes, disruption, and global game, etc.?
Those are all the challenges that we need to be conscious of, aware of. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. You've touched upon every issue. The world will keep changing more rapidly. And I think to succeed in this world, first, you have to be super connected and recognize that change will happen, have the curiosity to understand it, adapt to it. But if I was to offer one other aspect that I feel is important for leaders moving into the world which we find ourselves in, I'd probably characterize it as follows. Maybe 50 years ago, we all believed that one of the critical determinants of success was IQ. I think society quickly realized that IQ is insufficient. And therefore we started talking of EQ, emotional quotient. My feeling now is that IQ plus EQ is necessary, but again insufficient for the world of tomorrow. I think the world of tomorrow needs another Q, which is MQ, which is a moral quotient. It is the combination of IQ, EQ, and moral quotient which is required, and which is what society would require of leaders, and that's what I would really say at this stage. Because just think about it. Think about what happened in 2008, 2009. Take the Lehman Brothers and other example. Do you think the leaders of Lehman Brothers were short on IQ? Short on EQ? They would have been off the charts on both. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got to where they got to. But when self-interest comes into picture, judgment gets clouded. And the follies and mistakes which happened, which led to a global challenge which we've got, because weakness in character gets exposed. So leaders of tomorrow will have to have a strong moral compass. If you have to deal with this world, because there will be many things that you will deal with for which there is no playbook. You would be dealing with it for the very first time. And in the absence of an existing playbook, you have to go back and rely on your values to guide you between what is right and wrong. So that's how I see it. I don't know what else to say. Yeah?
Thank you, sir. Thanks. We are delighted to have with us Padma Shri Pratap Pawar, sir, a noted industrialist, as our guest of honor. I would request Pratap Pawar sir to come and felicitate Mr.
Thank
Nitin Paranjpe. He has just reached London this morning from India around 12:30, 1 o'clock, and he has agreed to join us. So thank you, sir. Pratap Pawar is already associated with some of the OMPEGians, and through OMPEG efforts as well as Garje Marathi Global efforts. Now, don't ask me right now what is Garje Marathi Global. I will tell you during the networking time. Pratap Pawar sir holds Bachelor in Engineering from BITS Pilani. He is Chairman of Sakal Media Group, Director of Bharat Forge Limited, Force Motor Limited, Bharat Forge International Limited, UK. He was Director of Kirloskar Oil Engines and Phenolics Cables for a long period. He was former President of Maratha Chamber of Commerce and Industries and Agriculture, Pune. The prestigious International Convention Center which you see at Pune was completed, that complex was completed under his leadership. Amongst numerous notable achievements, honors and awards, here are some of the highlights. First and foremost, he was honored with prestigious Padma Shri award, a civilian award conferred by Government of India in 2014 for his distinguished services to the trade and industry. He was awarded Punya Bhushan in 2006. He was awarded Delete by Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapith in 2018, and the list goes on. Apart from his professional engagement, he is actively engaged with several charitable projects and organizations. May I request you, sir, to give your concluding remarks and especially your thoughts on this event.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's permission for me and for you to listen to me now after Nitin spoke for last half an hour. It was very, very enlightening, and I'm proud of him personally because he belonged to College of Engineering Pune, where I've been associate for last 18 years, now as the chairman of Tech University. It's become a university. There are many here. Some of them I met first time, those who are from College of Pune Engineering College, and I get a pleasure when I see such outstanding students. Basically, I would like to not give much of an advice, but I'll share some of my observations which I feel concerned or can be done and should be done. This is a really very good platform, what you are doing. What is Chamber of Commerce? Same. We bring people together, we solve the problem together, we act as a strength. Working as an individual and working as a group makes always a difference. And I think that's a fundamental thing which you are doing and very successfully. I realize that and I appreciate that the wealth of knowledge you all individually and collectively have. Question is, as Nitin said, whether you use it for personal purpose or you use it for personal purpose and for the society also. Probably the intention for you here is to use for society purpose also, which is a right spirit, and probably I'm sure you all will contribute. Second thing, since you are all in business and entrepreneurs and experienced, very educated, very experienced, I've been spent all my life in India, although I had some industrial exposure. But today, how do we look at India? And how does the world look at India? We feel we have tremendous opportunity. Political reasons, China. People hate China. I mean, whenever I meet Europeans, Americans, they want to get away from China emotionally because of their own experience and opinions, whatever they are. Who they look at? India. They feel India has a different foundation, it has a competence, it has a brilliance, it has an intelligence. There are many examples. If you take top 10, 20 countries in the world, we have Indians as a top boss. So, software for that example, we've done a very good job. But last 5 years, 4 years, transformation has taken place in software. People are doing value addition, no more job work. And today, in next 3 to 5 years, we'll be easily exceeding $500 billion business in software. There is a business pouring, there is a lot of attrition because they are not coping up with the manpower and they are not coping with the business opportunities. There is a shortage, tremendous shortage. That's one aspect shows how world has got confidence and how our people have changed strategies, the change, not job work, but the product themselves, creativity. And I think we are on the next gear we are going to go to. Another field, because my personal travel and contacts, etc., I find this is tremendous dearth of manpower in Germany, in Japan. I was in Japan, they say, we beg to you to give minimum 5 million people. Same is the case with Germany. Why? There is no second generation. Normally they have one child or two, second child most unlikely. So there is no successor. If there is a successor, which is unlikely, then they don't have manpower to expand. What do? They don't want to close the shop. So through one of the Chamber of Commerce, where I'm closely associated, we already started negotiation and dialogue with Germany and Japan. Already in the last 3 months, we have identified 100 units in Germany. 6 of them already conceived the idea that they will come to India, make a partnership with local company which has a competence. They will either produce, collaborate, work together for expansion and research together. And that has become, we are trying to increase the trend wherein we get an opportunity to grow the business, to get the technology and also world market exposure. That has started successfully. So here is an opportunity. Even I have started small business in UK. We find UK has innovations, intelligence, but no manufacturing ability or capacity. Where do they look at? They are looking at India or beyond India, like Malaysia, Thailand, etc. So probably your team can find or pass on the information to somebody platform like Maratha Chamber, which has 3,000 members. And Maratha Chamber doesn't work for Pune or Maharashtra region alone. We always take all other chambers in Maharashtra in confidence. All these matters which I told you just now about Germany or Japan, we are working as a team. Not only one unit. The only thing we are taking the leadership because we have contacts. So transformation of knowledge, transfer of technology, transfer of opportunities where you see and identifying right person, right match in Maharashtra especially is only our job. And we feel this is again a very big potential where in the business can grow both mutually. You can be partner, you can be consultant, you can be participant. Small example, we don't know each other's potential. Here is one, sir, Professor Zavkar. We just were talking to each other, and now the whole conversation in the 6-8 months, am I right, has transformed Oxford University collaborating with Baramati Agricultural Trust on an international level, on a global level. Now, Oxford University did not know that there is a place which has such a knowledge and competence in place like Baramati, and Baramati didn't know that they are so competent they can teach Oxford. They conducted 2 lectures, and there was a tremendous response. So I think we have potential. We have to realize who we are, and be polish, improve, and have some ambitions to expand. Communications become very simple, very easy. So with group like yours, this could be a great opportunity. I think the opportunity will be much simplified, much easily can be done. Talking about education, I've been associated with the Education Institute for last more than 20 years. India is changing rapidly. We realized we lost the bus 20 years ago when China went into artificial intelligence and applications. We did not. We have now realized that this is a science which has to be done and which has a tremendous potential. So all over India, this awareness has come. All over India, entrepreneurship awareness has come. It's growing. We have started making unicorns, but that's not important. Important is that instead of getting a job, can I do my business? Can I have some ideas? This is the culture is definitely coming into India, especially in Maharashtra, it is where I'm associated. So there again, we have a lot of material available who wants some guidance, who wants some help or some collaboration. So if you identify companies which are looking for such opportunity and communicate, we will definitely be able to give you a right partner, which will succeed. So these are many areas where we can work together, we can help each other, and companies like Maratha Chamber and many other things are extremely keen that what can be done together and how we can be done. And we already, as I told you, we already have 6 success stories, and in next 3 to 4 months, we want to make at least 100 numbers. And that will become a trend, and that will give confidence to the people that yes, it can be done, and this is necessary. So let us look at what are the handicaps, like energy cost in Europe is gone substantially. Any product of metallurgy, where raw material is energy, for example, aluminum or steel or even glass, India has tremendous opportunity. And we have technologies. I'm on the board of Bharat Forge, I'm chairman of this Forge International Limited. In COVID time, Bharat Forge did not fail in any supplies anywhere in the world, and with zero rejection, which is very difficult for engineering company. 0 ppm we call it, parts per million. That kind of quality people are envisaging, they have been working on it, and they have been successful. Same is about the defense. There again tremendous potential. Luckily, first time Government of India realized that Indian companies, private companies, participation on defense is necessary, and people have done wonders. I don't want to go into stories. The fact is that there are so many areas, including agriculture, application, intelligence and export, value additions. These are the buzzing words which are coming to entrepreneurs in schools, colleges, and we are always trying to see what we can do together. Just small last example, again in the same spirit, College of Engineering Pune, where I'm associated, we are modernizing, upgrading, expanding, but we are giving this advantage to 20 engineering colleges. But we feel we are a government college, it's a college belongs to the society, and whatever we learn, earn, or emphasize should be beneficial to the entire society. So our syllabuses, our laboratories, our lectures, our experimentation is available to about 20 colleges in direct collaboration. Idea is that let's go together than we going individually. So this is what we want to do. With new education policy, we'll have cafeteria approach. That means if I'm commerce, I can still learn probably music or law or marketing or anything else. So you take the credits and you will get a degree, not only for one university, but second university also. These transformations have taken place. These policies have taken place. Question is educating the society. Question is making use of these good policies, which we were deprived earlier. I mean, earlier, if I go to a commerce college, I'll go only for commerce degree. I am not concerned about any other things. This was restricted. Today, it is not restricted. So we have come to see that what modern world needs, what Europe and America have been doing for ages, and how we can generate knowledge and wealth in our own country with our own people. I think we have tremendous potential, which you guys have come outside, you are entrepreneurs, you are enterprising people, definitely. But small help for individually or collectively will go a long way for our country as well, besides yourself. So I congratulate you for these efforts. I'm very much fond of such efforts. I appreciate Ms. Ganu and Ms. Gadgil, both, what they have done. We talked briefly about Garje Marathi, but we realized so many Maharashtrians have excelled all over the world. My media, Sakal, is trying to give publicity, interviews, etc., to bring to the notice of the people, okay, look, this is what we have. These are people who are amongst us. They were not from outsiders. And there was a fire. And this is what FIRE has done, and how they have excelled. So we are trying to promote, trying to inspire younger generation, existing generation, and see that India really becomes a $10 trillion organization or country, or 15 or 20. I mean, I think the question is, why not we beat China? There are some organization problems. I don't want to go into detail, but I think we have same chances like what we are in UK or USA or Europe, because we are natural resources and we are intelligence. And people have realized that we can do it. I think I see very confident youngsters, and that gives me hope that yes, tomorrow's area is of India, and there is nothing to worry about. So I again appreciate what you are doing. Tell us what if individual quality I can do for you, and vice versa. So this together, we'll work as a team, not as a individual effort. And definitely it will help, and it will encourage, it will inspire many others. Thank you very much for calling me here. And being well.
1 minute, sir. 1 minute. Can I request Lakshmi Narayanan from First Secretary, High Commission of India, London, to felicitate Mr. Pawar?